The morning sky over Dehan 5 turned dark with shadows. Tae-young looked up from his work at the Heritage Plaza and felt his heart stop. Massive ships blocked out the sun. They were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The alien vessels hung in the air like sleeping giants, silent and terrifying. People ran through the streets, screaming and pointing at the sky. Children cried. Adults grabbed their families and rushed toward the shelter tunnels. Tae-young stood frozen, staring at the ships. In his 35 years of life, he had only read about alien contact in old books and reports. He never thought he would see it himself. His communicator buzzed against his wrist. It was his sister, Ji-won. Her voice came through shaky and urgent. Tae-young, where are you? Get to the command center now. They're coming down. Who's coming down? He asked, though he already knew the answer. The aliens. They sent a message. They want to talk. Tae-young looked around the Heritage Plaza. This place was his life's work. He had spent years organizing the artifacts here, pieces of Earth's history brought across the stars by the first colonists. Ancient pottery sat in protected cases. Paintings hung on walls. Traditional clothing was displayed on mannequins, and in the center of it all stood the stone monument with the sword. The sword had been stuck in that stone for 200 years. General Kang himself had placed it there before he died. The old general said that only someone worthy of leading humanity's future could pull it free. Many people had tried over the centuries. Soldiers, politicians, scientists, even children on dares. Nobody had ever moved it even a fraction of an inch. Tae-young ran his hand over the stone as he passed it, heading toward the command center. The stone felt warm under his palm, the way it always did. Some people said the warmth was just from the sun. Tae-young believed it was something more. The command center was chaos. Hyunwoo, the colony administrator, stood at the main screen, his face pale. Ji-won was there in her military uniform, her hand resting on her weapon. Other officers crowded around, arguing in loud voices. They could destroy us in seconds, one officer said. We should surrender immediately, another added. We don't even know what they want yet. Ji-won snapped back. Hyunwoo raised his hands for silence. They've requested a meeting. Their leader wants to come down in person. They've guaranteed our safety. And we're supposed to believe that? Someone asked. We don't have much choice, Hyunwoo said quietly. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. The alien shuttle landed 2 hours later in the Heritage Plaza. Tae-young stood with the other colonists, watching as the door opened. Steam hissed out. A ramp extended down to the ground. The first thing that emerged was a guard. It stood 8 feet tall, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Its face was hidden behind a helmet. 4 more guards followed, each carrying weapons that hummed with power. Then came their leader. King Velthor was massive. His skin was dark blue and covered in scales that shimmered like oil on water. He had 4 arms, each thick with muscle. His eyes were golden and sharp, taking in everything with a calculating gaze. He wore robes that looked like they cost more than the entire colony. When he spoke, his voice was deep and resonant, translated instantly by a device at his throat. Humans, I am King Velthor of the Krell Empire. We have traveled far to meet you. Hyunwoo stepped forward, his voice steady despite his obvious fear. Welcome to Dehan 5. I am Administrator Hyunwoo. We are honored by your presence. Velthor's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. Honored. How quaint. He looked around the plaza, his eyes passing over the artifacts with what seemed like amusement. You preserve your past. Curious for such a young species. Our history is important to us, Tae-young found himself saying. Everyone turned to look at him. Ji-won shot him a warning glance, but it was too late. Velthor's golden eyes fixed on Tae-young. And who are you, little human? My name is Tae-young. I'm the curator here. I take care of these artifacts. A keeper of old things, Velthor said. In my empire, we look forward, not backward. The past is dust. The future is conquest. The word sent a chill through Tae-young's chest. He wanted to argue, to defend the importance of history, but Ji-won grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Velthor walked through the plaza slowly, his guards following. He stopped at various displays, making comments that seemed designed to belittle human achievement. Primitive weapons, he said at a display of ancient swords. Crude art, he remarked at a traditional painting. Simple tools for simple minds. Then he reached the center monument, the stone with the sword. Velthor stared at it for a long moment. What is this? Hyunwoo explained the legend. How General Kang had placed the sword there. How it could only be drawn by someone worthy. How it had remained stuck for 2 centuries. Belthor laughed. It was not a kind sound. A test of worthiness? How delightfully primitive. You believe in magic, then? We believe in honor, Tae-young said quietly. We believe that true strength comes from character, not just power. Character, Belthor repeated as if tasting the word. In my empire, we have a different belief. Power is the only truth, the strong rule. The weak serve. This is the natural order. He turned to face the assembled colonists. I have come to offer you a place in that order. The Krell Empire spans 47 star systems. We are the greatest civilization in this region of space. We seek warriors, strategists, clever minds to add to our forces. You want us to fight for you? Ji-won asked. With us, Belthor corrected. As valued servants of the Empire. Servants, Tae-young repeated. The word tasted bitter. You would be well compensated, Belthor continued. Wealth beyond your imagination. Technology that would advance your species by centuries. Resources to build 1,000 colonies like this one. All in exchange for your military service. Hyunwoo's eyes widened. Tae-young could see the administrator calculating, weighing options. The colony struggled with resources. They were always short on food, on medicine, on basic supplies. What Belthor offered could change everything, but at what cost? We need time to consider your offer, Hyunwoo said carefully. Of course, Belthor agreed. You have 3 days. I will return to my ship and await your answer. But know this, humans. The Krell Empire is not accustomed to being refused. Those who stand with us prosper. Those who stand against us. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The alien king and his guards returned to their shuttle. As it lifted off, Tae-young watched it go with a heavy feeling in his chest. He looked at the sword in the stone, its blade still gleaming after all these years. Ji-won came to stand beside him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that General Kang left us that sword for a reason, Tae-young said. I'm thinking that some test can't be passed by strength or technology alone. You think someone could actually pull it out? I think we're about to find out. Above them, the Krell ships waited in the darkness of space, patient as predators. Below, humanity faced its greatest choice. 3 days to decide their future. 3 days to determine if they would stand free or serve in chains of gold. The Colonial Council met in the main hall that evening. Every seat was filled. People stood along the walls, crowded in doorways, all wanting to hear the debate. Tae-young sat in the back row, listening as voices rose and fell in argument. We have no choice, Counselor Dae-hyun said, his voice cutting through the noise. The Krell could wipe us out with a single shot. If we refuse them, we die. If we accept, we become slaves, Ji-won shot back. She stood at the front, her military uniform crisp and clean. Servants, he called us. Does anyone here think that's better than death? It's better than extinction, another counselor argued. At least as servants, we survive. Our children survive. Maybe in time we could earn real respect. Tae-young watched his sister's face tighten. Ji-won had always been a fighter. Even as a child, she never backed down from anything. When pirates attacked a refugee ship 3 years ago, Ji-won had been the one to lead the defense. She saved 200 lives that day. She had the scars to prove it. Hyunwoo raised his hands for quiet. Let's look at this practically. What exactly is Belthor offering? An aide brought up images on the main screen. Resources, technology, ships, medical equipment. Energy cores that could power the colony for decades. Refined metals worth more than everything humanity currently possessed. That's enough to build 10 new colonies. Someone whispered. 100. Another corrected. Tae-young felt sick. He understood the temptation. Daehan 5 was always struggling. Last winter, 12 people died because they didn't have enough medicine. The crops failed twice in the past 5 years. Children went to bed hungry. The colony was dying slowly and everyone knew it. And what does he want in return? Ji-won asked. Military service, Hyunwoo read from the official message. Humanity would provide soldiers and tactical advisors to the Krell military campaigns. We would serve as auxiliary forces under Krell command. We'd be mercenaries, someone said. Worse, Ji-won corrected. Mercenaries get to choose their contracts. We'd be property. The debate raged for hours. Tae-young said nothing. He just listened and watched. When he finally left the hall near midnight, his head was spinning. He walked back to the Heritage Plaza, needing the quiet. The plaza was empty under the starlight. The alien ships above blocked out many stars, but enough remained to see by. Tae-young sat on the steps near the sword monument, his back against the cool stone. He thought about General Kang. The old general had been a hero during Earth's resource wars, when nations fought over the last oil fields, over water, over land to grow food. Kang had been the one to broker peace. Not through surrender, not through domination, through respect. Talking to the sword, Tae-young jumped. Ji-won emerged from the shadows, a slight smile on her face. "Just thinking," he said. She sat beside him. They were quiet for a moment, the way siblings can be, comfortable in silence. "The council is going to vote yes," Ji-won finally said. "I can see it. They're scared, desperate. They'll take Velthor's offer." "I know. And you're just going to let them?" Tae-young looked at his sister. "What can I do? I'm a historian. I organize old artifacts. I'm not a leader. I'm not a warrior like you." "You're smarter than you think," Ji-won said softly. "You always have been." The next morning, Velthor returned. He didn't come to the council hall. Instead, he requested a tour of the Heritage Plaza with Tae-young as his guide. Hyun-woo had no choice but to agree. Tae-young led the massive alien king through the exhibits, explaining each artifact's significance. Velthor seemed bored, his golden eyes distant and uninterested. "You humans cling to your past," Velthor said as they walked. "It makes you weak. In my empire, we teach our children to forget. History is a chain. It holds you to old ways, old thinking. History teaches us," Tae-young countered. "It shows us our mistakes so we don't repeat them. It reminds us of our values." "Values," Velthor laughed. "What good are values when you're starving? What good is honor when you're dead?" They stopped at a display of traditional Korean clothing. Velthor reached out one of his 4 hands and touched the fabric. "Primitive textiles. We have materials that repair themselves, that adjust to any temperature. What use is this?" "It connects us to our ancestors," Tae-young said quietly. "It reminds us who we are." "You are what you choose to become," Velthor said. "Not what your ancestors were." They moved through the plaza. At each stop, Velthor found something to mock. Ancient pottery was crude craftsmanship. Traditional paintings were simplistic art. Musical instruments were inferior noisemakers. Tae-young felt his anger growing, but he kept it hidden. He watched Velthor carefully, studying the alien king. He noticed things. The way Velthor's guards never relaxed. The way they watched their king with fear, not loyalty. The way Velthor spoke about his empire, always using words like conquest and domination. Never cooperation or alliance. This was not a leader who inspired love. This was a tyrant who ruled through fear. They reached the sword monument. Velthor stopped, staring at it with those calculating golden eyes. "Ah yes," he said. "The magical sword. The test of worthiness." He circled the stone slowly. "Tell me, curator, what makes someone worthy in human eyes?" Tae-young thought carefully before answering. "Sacrifice, loyalty, the willingness to protect those weaker than yourself. The courage to do what's right even when it's hard." "Pretty words," Velthor said. "In my experience, the worthy are simply the strong. Natural selection. The weak perish, the strong survive and rule. Is that why you want human soldiers?" Tae-young asked. "Because we're strong?" "You're clever," Velthor corrected. "Humans have a talent for tactics, for creative thinking. You're useful, like a tool, a weapon. That's why I'm offering you gold instead of annihilation." "Very generous," Tae-young said, though his voice held no gratitude. Velthor turned to face him fully. "You dislike me. I can see it in your eyes. You think I'm cruel, arrogant, perhaps I am. But I am also honest. I offer you survival. Your council is wise enough to see the value in that." "Survival at any cost?" "Survival is the only cost that matters," Velthor said. He looked back at the sword. "This weapon in the stone. It represents your human foolishness. You believe in destiny and chosen ones, in worthiness beyond strength. Let me show you reality." He turned and snapped his fingers. 2 of his guards stepped forward. They carried a large device between them, all metal and glowing lights. "This is a molecular dissociator," Velthor explained. "It can cut through any material. Stone, metal, even reinforced starship hulls. I could have this sword free in less than a minute. Would that make me worthy?" Tae-young felt his heart pounding. The sword cannot be taken by force or technology. Only by someone truly worthy. Superstition, Velthor dismissed. But I'll humor your beliefs. I won't have my engineers extracted. Not yet, he smiled, showing teeth. First, I'll let your council vote. I'll let them accept my offer. Then, as a gesture of goodwill, I'll have my people remove this sword for you. A gift. A demonstration of Krell superiority. He leaned closer to Tae Young, his massive form casting a shadow. You see, little curator, I don't need to prove my worthiness. I already have all the proof I need. Power. That's the only worthiness that matters. Velthor left then, his guards following. Tae Young stood alone in the plaza, his hands shaking. He looked at the sword, its blade still gleaming in the light. We need a miracle, he whispered. The sword remained silent, waiting as it had waited for 200 years. The third day arrived too quickly. Tae Young had barely slept. He spent the nights reading old texts about General Kang, searching for something, anything that might help. The general's words echoed in his mind from journals written 2 centuries ago. True strength is not in the sword, but in the heart that wields it. Not all who are strong are worthy, and not all who are worthy appear strong. The council chamber filled early. People packed in shoulder to shoulder. The tension was thick enough to cut. Tae Young squeezed into a standing spot near the back wall next to his sister. They're going to vote yes, Ji-won whispered. I counted. At least 8 of the 12 counselors are ready to accept. I know, Tae Young said. We can't let this happen. I know. Ji-won looked at him. Then do something. You're the smart one. Think of something. But Tae Young's mind was blank. What could he possibly do? He was just a historian, a curator of old things. He had no power here. Hyunwoo called the meeting to order. Today we vote on King Velthor's offer. But first, he has requested to address us one final time. The doors opened. Velthor entered, his forearms spread wide in a gesture that might have been welcoming. His guards carried large chests behind him. They set them down at the front of the chamber with heavy thuds. People of Daehan 5, Velthor began, his translated voice filling the room. I come before you with an open hand. Let me show you what awaits if you accept my offer. He gestured to the chests. Guards opened them. Inside was gold, bars of pure gold stacked neatly. But not just gold. There were crystals that glowed with inner light, refined metals that shimmered, technology components that hummed with power. People gasped. Some leaned forward, eyes wide. Tae Young saw the hunger in their faces and he understood it. These people were desperate. They wanted to believe that salvation could come so easily. This is just the beginning, Velthor continued. Accept my offer and I will fill your storehouses. I will give you medicine to cure any disease. Ships that can cross the galaxy in days. Weapons to defend yourselves. Everything you need, not just to survive, but to thrive. And all we have to do is fight your wars, Ji-won called out. Velthor turned to look at her. All you have to do is serve the empire that protects you. Is that so terrible? You would have peace, security, prosperity. We would have chains, Ji-won said. Gold chains are still chains. Your sister is passionate, Velthor said to Tae Young. But passion without wisdom is dangerous. Tell me, young warrior, would you rather be free and dead or prosperous and alive? I'd rather be both, Ji-won answered. Velthor laughed. Such spirit. This is exactly why I want humans in my forces. You have fire, determination. These qualities make excellent soldiers. He turned back to address everyone. Let us not play games. You are a small colony on a distant world, alone, vulnerable. Without my protection, the next visitors might not be so generous. Pirates, raiders, other empires less kind than mine. The galaxy is not safe. You need allies. Allies are masters, someone asked. Is there truly a difference? Velthor replied. In my empire, all serve the greater whole. Some lead, some follow, but all benefit. I ask you now before we vote. What do you desire? What would ease your fears and open your hearts to this alliance? He spread his arms wider. Name your price, humans. What do you desire most? The chamber fell silent. People looked at each other. Some stared at the gold. Others looked at the floor. Hyunwoo opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, Tae Young felt his feet moving. He walked forward. Ji-won grabbed at his sleeve, but he pulled free. The crowd parted for him. He felt every eye on him, human and alien alike. Curator, Velthor said with amusement in his voice. Have you come to make a request? Tae Young's heart hammered in his chest. His mouth was dry, but he kept walking past the chests of gold, Past the glowing crystals, past the advanced technology, he walked until he stood in front of Velthor, this massive alien king who could probably crush him with one hand. "Well?" Velthor asked. "What does the keeper of old things desire?" Tae-Young turned. He pointed across the chamber, through the open doors toward the Heritage Plaza visible in the distance. He pointed at the sword buried in the stone monument. "That," he said. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Velthor stared at him. "What?" "The sword," Tae-Young said, his voice stronger now. "That's what I want. The broken relic?" Velthor's confusion was obvious. "You would trade your world's future for a piece of rusted metal stuck in a rock?" "I'm not trading anything," Tae-Young said. "But you asked what we desire. You asked what would open our hearts to this alliance. That sword represents everything we value. Honor, sacrifice, worthiness beyond mere strength." "It's a children's fairy tale," Velthor said. "Then it should be easy to prove wrong." Tae-Young felt the words forming, felt something ancient and powerful guiding his tongue. "You say you want humanity to serve you. You say you'll be our protector, our leader. But what makes you worthy to lead us?" The chamber erupted in whispers. Yunwoo stood up, his face pale. "Tae-Young, please." But Velthor raised a hand, silencing everyone. His golden eyes fixed on Tae-Young with an intensity that was almost physical. "Are you challenging me?" "I'm asking you to prove yourself," Tae-Young said. "Not with gold. Not with threats. With the test General Kang left for us. Draw the blade. Show us you're worthy to lead humanity. If you can do that, I'll support joining your empire." "This is madness," Velthor said. But Tae-Young could see something in those alien eyes. Pride. Wounded pride. "You compare me to your ancient general? I have conquered 47 star systems. I command fleets that could darken 1,000 skies. I am king of the greatest empire in this region of space." "Then drawing one sword should be simple," Tae-Young said quietly. The two stood facing each other, a human barely over 5.5 feet tall, and an alien nearly 8 feet of muscle and power. But in that moment something shifted. The power in the room changed. Velthor could have refused. He could have laughed it off. He could have ordered his guards to kill Tae-Young where he stood. But Tae-Young had done something clever. He had made it public. He had challenged the king in front of witnesses, both human and Krell. To refuse now would look like weakness. And weakness was something Velthor could not afford. "You truly believe this sword judges worthiness?" Velthor asked. "I believe it judges character," Tae-Young said. "I believe it knows the difference between someone who leads through fear and someone who leads through respect." "Very well," Velthor said. His voice was cold now, all amusement gone. "I accept your challenge. I will draw your precious sword. And when I do, when I prove that your test is nothing but superstition, you will all kneel. Every human in this colony will swear loyalty to me, not as servants, as slaves. That will be my price for your insult." The words hung in the air like poison. Hyunwoo looked sick. Ji-won's hand was on her weapon. The other colonists looked terrified. But Tae-Young nodded. "And if you fail?" "I will not fail," Velthor said. "But if you do," Tae-Young pressed. "If the sword refuses you, you leave us alone. You take your gold and your offers and you never come back." Velthor smiled, showing all his teeth. "Agreed, but I warn you, Curator. I have never failed at anything. Your test will be no different." They walked to the Heritage Plaza together. The entire colony followed. It was like a parade, but one filled with dread instead of joy. Tae-Young walked beside this alien king, his mind racing. What had he done? If Velthor succeeded, if the sword came free for him, humanity would be enslaved. Everything would be lost. But as they approached the monument, Tae-Young felt that warmth again from the stone. Stronger now. As if it was waking up after a long sleep, Ji-won appeared at his side. "Brother, this is insane. What if he actually pulls it out?" "Then I was wrong about everything," Tae-Young admitted. "But I don't think I am. General Kang wouldn't have left us a test that could be beaten by force alone. You're betting humanity's freedom on a legend." "I'm betting on what General Kang believed," Tae-Young said. "That worthiness matters. That character matters. That some things can't be bought or taken by force." They reached the monument. Velthor stood before the stone, looking down at the sword. The blade gleamed in the afternoon light, unchanged by centuries. "Watch closely, humans," Velthor said. "Watch as I shatter your illusions." He reached out with all 4 hands and grasped the hilt. Velthor's 4 hands wrapped around the sword's hilt. His golden eyes narrowed with concentration. The muscles in his arms tensed, visible even under his ceremonial robes. He pulled. Nothing happened. The sword didn't move, not even a fraction. It sat in the stone as solid as if it had been welded there. Velthor's face darkened. He adjusted his grip, planting his feet wider. He pulled again, harder this time. The tendons in his neck stood out. His breathing became heavier. The sword remained perfectly still. A murmur went through the crowd. Tae-young held his breath. Beside him, Jiwon's hand had relaxed on her weapon. She was watching with wide eyes. Velthor released the sword. He stood back, breathing hard. For a moment, no one spoke. Then he stepped forward again, this time gripping the hilt with such force that his knuckles turned a darker shade of blue. He pulled with everything he had. The stone beneath his feet cracked. The ground around the monument trembled, but the sword stayed exactly where it was. After a full minute of straining, Velthor stepped back. Sweat dripped down his scaled face. He looked at the sword with something close to hatred. "Your engineers," he snapped at his guards. "Bring the dissociator, now." 2 Krell guards rushed back to the shuttle. They returned carrying the same device Velthor had shown Tae-young days before. The molecular dissociator hummed with power as they set it up near the monument. "My king," one of the guards said hesitantly. "The challenge was to draw the blade, not to—" "Silence," Velthor commanded. He turned to Tae-young. "You said the sword judges worthiness. I say it simply stuck. Let me prove it." "That wasn't the challenge," Tae-young said quietly. "You were supposed to pull it free yourself." "The end result is the same," Velthor growled. "The sword will be removed." But before the guards could activate the device, Tae-young stepped forward. "Using technology to free it proves nothing. General Kang built this test specifically so it couldn't be beaten by force or machines. The sword judges the person, not their tools." Velthor's eyes blazed. "Then let my warriors try. If I cannot draw it, perhaps one of them can. They are all warriors of worth in my empire." "Fair enough," Tae-young agreed, though his heart was pounding. One by one, the Krell guards approached the sword. The first was the largest, nearly 9 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. He grabbed the hilt and pulled. His face turned dark with effort. The sword didn't budge. The second guard tried. Then the third. Then the fourth. Each one pulled with all their strength. Each one failed. The colonists watched in growing amazement. Some began to smile. Others whispered excitedly. Children pointed and laughed at the mighty aliens who couldn't move a simple sword. Velthor's rage was palpable. He looked at his guards with disgust. "Useless. All of you." He turned back to Tae-young. "Your sword is defective. Some kind of magnetic lock. A technological trick." "It's not a trick," Tae-young said. "It's a test. And you failed it." "I failed nothing." Velthor's voice boomed across the plaza. "This is superstitious nonsense. Ancient foolishness. Your General Kang was a charlatan who—" "General Kang," Tae-young interrupted, his voice calm but firm, "understood something you don't. That true leadership isn't about domination. It's about sacrifice. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's about earning respect, not demanding it through fear." The plaza fell silent. Even Velthor stopped, staring at this small human who dared to lecture him. "You rule through power," Tae-young continued. "Your guards fear you. Your subjects serve you because they have no choice. That's not worthiness. That's tyranny." Velthor took a step closer to Tae-young. His shadow fell over the historian like a dark cloud. "Careful, human. You are very close to death." "Then kill me," Tae-young said, not backing down. "Prove that might makes right. Show everyone here what kind of leader you truly are." For a long moment, Velthor's hands twitched. Tae-young could see the alien king calculating, weighing options. Kill this insolent human and lose any chance of recruiting humanity, or let the insult stand and appear weak. Finally, Velthor stepped back. "Perhaps you're right, Curator. Perhaps I'm not the one meant to draw this blade." He looked around at the assembled humans. "But if I cannot, then who can? You? Your administrator? That passionate sister of yours?" He turned to Hyunwoo. "Come, administrator. You lead this colony. Surely you are worthy. Draw the sword and show your people." Hyunwoo looked trapped. He glanced at Tae-young, then at the sword, then back at Velthor. Slowly he approached the monument. He was a good man, Hyunwoo, fair and thoughtful, But when he grasped the hilt and pulled, the sword remained fixed. "You see?" Velthor said. "Even your own leader cannot pass this test. Perhaps no one can. Perhaps your General Kang played a cruel joke on you all." "I don't think so," Tae-young said quietly. He had been thinking, watching, remembering. All the stories about General Kang. All the accounts of what the old general valued. "Then you try," Velthor challenged. "Show us this worthiness you speak of." Tae-young shook his head. "I'm not worthy either. I'm just a historian. I preserve things. I don't lead anyone." "Then this entire exercise has been pointless," Velthor said with satisfaction. "Not pointless," Tae-young said. "Just incomplete." He turned to look at his sister. "Ji-won, would you come here?" Ji-won's eyes went wide. "No, Tae-young, no." "I'm not, please," he said gently. Reluctantly, Ji-won walked forward. She looked uncomfortable with all the attention. This was not like her. She was a soldier, yes, but a quiet one. She did her duty and expected no praise. Tae-young stood beside her in front of the sword. He spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "My sister doesn't talk about her accomplishments. She doesn't brag. But I know her story, and I think you all should hear it." "Tae-young, don't," Ji-won whispered, but he continued. 3 years ago, pirates attacked a refugee transport. The ship was carrying families, children, elderly, people running from war zones. The pirates didn't care. They wanted the ship's cargo. He looked around at the crowd. Ji-won was on patrol nearby. She could have waited for backup. Should have, according to protocol. The pirates had superior numbers and weapons. But she didn't wait. She went in alone because those people needed help right then. Ji-won's face was red with embarrassment. "I was just doing my job." "She fought off 12 pirates," Tae-young said. "Saved 200 lives. Got wounded in the process, nearly died, and when they tried to give her a medal, she turned it down. Said she didn't deserve recognition for basic decency." He turned to his sister. "Last year, the settlement at New Busan was destroyed by an asteroid strike. Ji-won gave her entire military pension to help rebuild it. People asked why. She said it was because she could. Because others needed it more. That's not," Ji-won started. "She's been offered 3 promotions," Tae-young continued. Each time she said no. Do you know why? Because she didn't want to leave her unit. Didn't want to abandon the soldiers who served under her. She said a real leader doesn't climb the ladder by stepping on others. The crowd was listening intently now. Even Velthor seemed interested, his golden eyes fixed on Ji-won. "My sister," Tae-young said softly, "embodies everything General Kang believed in. Sacrifice, loyalty, protection of those who cannot protect themselves. She doesn't lead through fear or power. She leads through example, through care, through a willingness to give everything for others." He met Ji-won's eyes. "That's worthiness. That's what the sword judges. Not strength. Not power. Not conquest. But character." Ji-won looked at the sword, then at her brother. "I'm not special. I'm just a soldier." "That's exactly why you're worthy," Tae-young said. "Because you don't see yourself as special. Because you serve without expectation of reward. Because you protect without demanding gratitude." The plaza was absolutely silent now. Every eye was on Ji-won. Ji-won stood before the stone monument, her hand hovering over the sword's hilt. She looked small compared to the massive Krell who had tried before her. Small and uncertain and very human. "I don't think I can do this," she whispered to her brother. "Just try," Tae-young said gently. Ji-won took a deep breath. She reached out slowly, almost reluctantly, and wrapped her fingers around the ancient hilt. The moment her skin touched the metal, something changed. The stone beneath began to glow with a soft golden light. The warmth that Tae-young had always felt from the monument suddenly intensified, spreading outward in waves. People gasped and stepped back. Ji-won's eyes went wide. "I feel something. It's warm. She pulled. Not with great effort. Not straining or struggling. The sword slid free of the stone as smoothly as if it had been resting in oil. It came up into the afternoon light, and as it rose, the blade ignited with brilliant blue energy that crackled and hummed. The sword was alive. After 200 years of waiting, it had found someone worthy. Ji-won held it up, staring at the blade in shock. The energy field around it pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Then something else began to happen. All across the Heritage Plaza, lights started activating. Panels in the ground lit up. Hidden systems came online with electronic hums and beeps. Tae-young felt the ground vibrate beneath his feet. He knew these systems. He had cataloged them years ago during his research, never imagining they still worked. They were defense systems, ancient weapons platforms that General Kang had installed when the colony was first founded. Screens materialized in the air around the plaza, holographic displays showing tactical data, and all of them showed the same thing. Weapons systems across the entire colony were now active. Orbital defense platforms, ground-based railguns, energy shields. Everything was online and targeting the Krell ships above. Velthor stared at the displays, his golden eyes wide with shock. "What is this?" "The sword is a key," Tae-young said, understanding flooding through him. "General Kang didn't just leave us a test. He left us a safeguard, protection that could only be activated by someone truly worthy. Someone who would use power to protect, not to conquer." On the screens, the Krell fleet was surrounded by targeting reticles, hundreds of weapon systems all charged and ready, all waiting for Jiwon's command. One of the Krell guards moved toward his weapon. Instantly, a dozen targeting lasers painted his chest. He froze. "I wouldn't," Jiwon said quietly, still holding the glowing sword. "These systems are responding to me now, and they seem very protective." Velthor looked at her, then at the sword, then at the displays showing his fleet under threat. The power dynamic had completely reversed. He had come here as a conqueror offering mercy. Now he was surrounded, outgunned, vulnerable. But Tae-young stepped forward before anyone could do anything rash. "This doesn't have to end in violence." Velthor's gaze snapped to him. "You dare threaten me?" "No one is threatening anyone," Tae-young said calmly. "Look around you, Velthor. You came here seeking soldiers, warriors to add to your empire. You wanted to buy us with gold, to intimidate us with power. But you missed something important." "And what is that?" Velthor asked coldly. "You can't buy loyalty. You can't force respect. True strength, the kind that lasts, comes from trust, from mutual respect, from standing together as equals, not master and servant." Tae-young walked closer to the alien king. "You rule 47 star systems. That's impressive. But how many of those systems serve you willingly? How many would fight for you if they had a choice? How many of your soldiers are there because they want to be, not because they have to be?" Velthor said nothing. His silence was answer enough. "You wanted humanity to join your empire as servants," Tae-young continued. "But what you really need are allies. Partners. People who will stand beside you in the dark times, not because you force them, but because they choose to." "And why would you choose that?" Velthor asked. "You have weapons pointed at my ships. You could kill me right now. Why not simply take your victory and send me away?" "Because that's not who we are," Tae-young said. "We're not conquerors. We don't want to rule others. We just want to be free to live our lives and help where we can." Jiwon lowered the sword slightly. The targeting systems remained active, but the aggression level decreased. "My brother is right. We don't want to be your enemies, but we won't be your slaves either." Velthor was quiet for a long moment, his forearms crossed over his massive chest. Tae-young could see the alien king thinking, calculating. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, less arrogant, more thoughtful. "In 3,000 years, no one has spoken to me this way. My advisors fear me too much to tell me truth. My generals serve me because they have no choice. My subjects obey because disobedience means death." He looked at the sword in Jiwon's hands. "That weapon judged me and found me wanting. Perhaps it was right." "Admitting that takes courage," Tae-young said. "Or foolishness," Velthor replied, but there was a slight change in his tone, almost like humor. "Very well, humans. You have made your point. What do you propose?" "A real alliance," Tae-young said. "Not vassalage. Not servitude. Partnership between equals. Humanity maintains its sovereignty and independence. In exchange, we offer our skills as allies, not servants." "And the technology?" Hyunwoo asked, stepping forward. "The resources you offered?" "Technology sharing," Tae-young suggested. "Both ways. You give us what we need to thrive. We share our innovations with you. Trade, not tribute." Velthor considered this. "My empire is built on hierarchy, subordination. What you're suggesting would require fundamental changes." "Maybe that's not a bad thing," Jiwon said. "Strong alliances are stronger than empires built on fear." "You truly believe that?" Velthor asked her. "I do. I've led soldiers. The ones who follow because they trust you will die for you. The ones who follow because they fear you will run when things get hard? Velthor looked at the sword again, at the blue energy still crackling along its edge. That weapon chose you. What does that make you? Leader of humanity? Ji-won laughed. No, I'm just a soldier. Let Hyun-woo and the council lead. Let Tae-young advise them. I'll just keep this sword safe until it's needed again. She doesn't even want power, Velthor said almost to himself. Truly worthy indeed. The negotiations took hours. They moved into the council chamber where Tae-young and Hyun-woo worked out the details with Velthor and his advisors. It wasn't easy. The Krell were used to dominating. But with the defense system still active and the sword still glowing in Ji-won's hands, they were motivated to compromise. By evening, they had an agreement. Humanity would remain independent. The Krell would provide technology and resources as trade goods, not bribes. In return, human advisors would work with Krell military leaders to improve tactics and strategy. Not as subordinates, as consultants, as allies. This is unprecedented, one of Velthor's advisors said. We have never made such an agreement. Perhaps it's time to start, Velthor said. He looked tired but somehow lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. I have ruled through fear for centuries. Maybe it's time to try something different. As the Krell prepared to leave, Velthor approached Tae-young one last time. You are a dangerous man, Curator. Not with weapons, but with words. I'm just a keeper of old things, Tae-young said. No, you're more than that. You remember what others forget. You preserve what matters. Velthor paused. General Kang would be proud of you, and of your sister. Thank you, Tae-young said sincerely. Velthor and his party boarded their shuttle. As it lifted off, the massive Krell fleet began to withdraw from orbit. But this time they didn't leave in anger. They left with new respect. Ji-won stood in the Heritage Plaza, looking at the sword in her hands. The blue energy had faded, but the blade still seemed to hum with potential. What do I do with this now? Keep it safe, Tae-young said. General Kang left it for someone worthy. You proved you're that person. I didn't do anything special. That's exactly the point, Tae-young said with a smile. Hyun-woo approached them, looking relieved and exhausted. We did it. We kept our freedom. We got the alliance. How did we do it? We remembered who we are, Tae-young said. We remembered that some things can't be bought or taken. That worthiness matters. That character is more important than power. Over the following months, the alliance with the Krell proved beneficial for both sides. Technology flowed to human colonies. Human advisors helped the Krell military become more effective. More importantly, Velthor began treating his other subject species differently, with more respect, more like partners. The change was slow, but it was real. And it all started because one man pointed at a sword and said, that. Ji-won became the sword's keeper, as Tae-young had suggested. She didn't display it as a trophy. Instead, she placed it in a new monument at the center of the Heritage Plaza. Not buried in stone this time, but mounted on a pedestal where everyone could see it. The inscription beneath it read, True strength is not in the blade, but in the heart that wields it. Not all who are strong are worthy, and not all who are worthy appear strong. General Kang Tae-young returned to his work as curator, content to remain in the background. He had never wanted to be a hero. He just wanted to preserve the lessons of the past so they could guide the future.